Good morning, everybody. Thank you for joining us for this session. We're joined by Ash here from Kiely Group. For those of you that I've not had the pleasure of meeting before, my name is Neil Levitt. I'm an exec board member of the Institute of Highway Engineers. And so this type of subject on improving skills for people is something that's very important to me personally, but also to the Institute as we're trying to bring people into the industry. So from that perspective, a lot of experience there in terms of understanding the shortfalls that we have in getting people into the industry and trying to make it interesting for them. So whether or not that's getting them in as apprentices or getting them through CPD or continual professional development and registrations. But then in my consultancy life, I also see at the operative level, we have the problem of getting staff to come in and actually work on the roads themselves. We heard some great examples there from Donna and from Dwayne about a local authority perspective and also a big PLC's perspective on how working in the prison community can work. Ash is with Kiely Brothers, as I said, and I work with them as a consultant there. And so with Mike Kiely, who's in the room with us as well today, we realised that we had an operative skill shortage. This was born out of, we used to have quite a lot of migrant workers that used to come in from Europe that come in to work for the business on a seasonal basis, and they were becoming increasingly more difficult for us to attract and retain. And a lot of the people that we would try to employ from Kiely's are based in the Birmingham area, we tried to recruit in the local area, were being gobbled up by HS2. They were able to pay them higher wages. Local authority budgets obviously are tighter, which means that that affects the salaries that SMEs can pay to their staff. And we were looking at a new alternative. So we decided to get involved with a guy called Neil Sampson. Neil is at Solar Gates, and he works in the prison community specifically for SMEs and small businesses. So Ash and I and Mike went down to meet Mike, and Mike's initial reaction was, let's do it, this is perfect for us. So Ash, welcome.
Thank you.
Ash is the head of recruitment and training and HR at Kiely Brothers. So do you just want to explain a little bit about your background and how we got to this stage?
Yeah, so got approached to do this programme. Prior to me being head of HR in highways, I used to have numerous different backgrounds, construction, but I was also a domestic abuse and social behaviour officer for a local authority in housing sectors. So it's quite a good project that we started, and we got really innovative with how we can approach it within a different way. So there's going to be a lot of similarities with what we've just heard from Donna and that within the prisons. However, we approach it as more of a mentor basis. We go in personally we're working in HMP Leicester at the moment. And
so it's Leicester Prison that you're working in, isn't it? When
yes.
We started off with Helen Cox was the prison employment lead. But to Donna's point about the community sharing information, we had some good company mentors that worked with us, didn't we? Some household names that helped us on our journey. So you were recently at the famous sausage manufacturer.
Yes. So we started just by going on, and it was ironic really, because this event was held at the Marriott Hotel, who didn't want their board to say hiring ex-offenders. So it's quite ironic. But Greggs, Cook, and Timpson's were really like leaders in pushing employment out of prisons, hiring ex-offenders and treating them how they should be treated. And we ran with this. That was in November. In the following December, we got a hold of Helen Cox with the Leicester Prison, and we were actually doing a talk. Now, the way that we approach our prison was actually entirely by mistake. We couldn't get our PowerPoint to work. So we had to talk to the prisoners, we had to talk to them, and every single one of them came up to us and congratulated us just about talking to them just as an adult. So now the way that we approach our training programs within Leicester Prison is we've physically gone out, become qualified trainers to train level 1 health and safety, traffic management, and first aid. So then
you had to be trained as a trainer, didn't you?
Yes, so I went multiple weeks doing it as fully qualified trainer to go in. We find this works really well because we speak and we mentor and we almost job interview whilst I am delivering the training. So you can identify skills. We can also tailor that to a highways perspective. A lot of the training courses, i.e. first aid, are very basic and aren't tailored to it. We can sort of tailor it to a highways perspective, and they'll come out with a fully qualified either traffic management CSCS card, fully qualified first aid course. Now that doesn't necessarily mean they'll come out and work with us. However, that releases trained operatives into the highways community as I mean, we've heard before, we need to start working collaborative, and that's how we reduce the skills gap and shortage.
And even for a small business like Keeley's, in comparison to IKEA, you've taken on some staff, you've given some people jobs already, you've had them out working on the network, and I was with you earlier, you were being interviewed by the Sunday Times talking about this as well.
Yes, yeah, so funnily enough, our approach has worked for us. We're a business that's blessed enough to be able to just run with it. We've run with it, we've walked in, and we've had 2 other prisons approach us. So yes, we had the interview with the Sunday Times about the expansion of the programme, how we're doing it. We have employed out of prisons, but we also, as mentioned, they'll be released out of prison with traffic management qualifications where they can go and work with anyone in that sort of community sector.
You mentioned you've been going into other prisons. You've just had Feltham and Coldingley specifically get in touch, having heard what we're doing, to go and set courses up there as well?
Yes, there's something called an EFFR board, which we approached not so long ago, a couple of weeks ago actually, and both the chairs for Coldingley and Feltham asked us if we could go in there. One's a youth offending institute. Mentioned that actually this could be really positive for people to go out and leave London and work away on the roads, on the sector. And then we've actually also pushed, because this is as mentioned before, this is a talent pool that's never been tapped into and really utilised, and it's great to see that so many companies are doing it. And pushing it forward. So we're actually going to try and work towards becoming part of that EFFR board with Greggs and Simpsons and pushing it.
Just going back to the experience of the actual people that we employ, they get called ex-offenders a lot. We had the conversation, you and I found ourselves on B-Wing in Leicester Prison as visitors.
Yeah, the beauty of our programme is we won't just go there to train. So we do the week-long course of the fully qualified training sessions that we do. However, we will just stop in for an hour. Funnily enough, on my way here on Monday, I had to stop into Leicester for my vetting and key carrying training, and we walk onto the wing and talk to these lads and mentor. It's a male-only prison at Leicester. We talk to these lads, mentor them, ask where they want to be going.
We sat on the end of a bed in one cell, didn't we, just chatting to that guy. It was a bizarre experience, I have to say. We were just going in there to train and we found ourselves there. But one of the things that they were asking us and that we spoke to the people about was they're very self-conscious about how they're going to be received on the way out, how much less money they're going to earn than the normal staff because they're ex-offenders. Do you want to talk about that?
Yeah, it's quite surprising actually, because we met multiple people who are actually foremen in crews and fully capable of doing the job and exceeding it and becoming managers, but because they were so worried of what the perception of what they were going to be called, paid, etc., they weren't confident enough to run with that. So we approached that. And we've also taken that into our current workforce, where we're trying to bridge that gap. So we, again, within this forum, we identified the gap between, and this was based from the training within the prisons. There's a lot of operatives that may struggle with reading and writing. So we are looking into trials and how we get services, mobile services out to actually improve literacy and numeracy skills. Not only does that benefit us in closing that gap, because we can train effectively and show customer service, it also improves their personal life, which makes our guys happier at work, because they may be able to do their maths homework with their daughters or their sons.
It also gives them greater confidence when it's dealing with members of the public as well, doesn't it? They feel less intimidated, less threatened in terms of just socially, not physically.
So
the customer experience for the people that we serve.
It's something that we're trying to concentrate on quite big, about making people comfortable within the sector and actually giving them a bit of authority to make their own decisions. We are looking into we're currently working on a program actually as part of our induction process, just a customer service base, how to speak to people, how to approach people, as a real extra in our induction. Obviously, we trying to build confidence. I mean, all our guys have now got Clearway cameras on to help against any issues on the road, so it makes them confident to make their own decision without any repercussions, and they can actually fulfil their potential.
So the camera records what's going on?
Yes.
Yeah, but that's for all the staff, that's not just for the people that come out of the prisons, isn't it? Yeah. And in terms of, we heard one of the things that Donna said earlier on, as much as we'd all like to say every person we go and train we'd like to give a job to, we can't.
No.
You know, it's just and some people are just not the right people for the type of job that we're doing once they've gone through the training. And we have to remember that just because you're taking on an ex-offender, you don't take them on because they're an ex-offender. You take them on because they're the right person for the job, don't you? That was one of the key things that the prison community and Timpson's and Greg's were really keen to enforce on us. Don't feel obliged to take people on.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing we can say, I mean, as we mentioned, we had an interview with the Sunday Times, and the guy was quite honest with us and said, just tell the truth, be honest, right? And that's what we need to do when we're having these conversations with people who may be serving a sentence within a prison. You've got to be honest, and that's what they appreciate in us. And we've actually found that we have got a talent pool in there that we could possibly have foremans, we can have managers, we can have contracts managers. The ceiling is there's no ceiling to it. That honest group of conversation is brilliant, and the reason why we went into this is because if we don't change, we can't expect a result to change. So the service needs to improve, and that's by us doing it really personally. So we as a company go in ourselves and we portray that message within the training that we offer, and that's through a week-long course. So we heard a question over there about someone who may go in for 12 weeks and come out. We go in once. We try to do it bi-monthly at the moment. It's 1 week and they've got a full qualification, so it's really positive. And then that opens the gate, it gives them an opportunity to actually come out and go anywhere. I mean, obviously, if we have a position and we think they're suitable, that's brilliant. If not, they at least got an opportunity to move forward to another sector.
And one of the things as well is that we heard, again, referring back to Donna because she spoke so well on the subject and she's obviously exceptionally knowledgeable on it. But for a business like Carley Brothers, you don't have the capacity as a business to take people out on ROTL, which is the release on temporary licence. So this is the people that would come out on day release, do the job, and then have to be back at the prison by a certain period of time. You're just taking people as they're being released from prison.
As they're being released from prison, and we work closely with we call them PELs, the Prison Employment Leads, to do so. So who help us with the matter of the vetting. Again, we can have conversations, we can conduct interviews within the prison. Funnily enough, they've got a prison employment hub, which they get really creative with an old cell that's been turned into an interview, bizarre. Which is a bit different, but they make the most of what they've got, and it's a really brilliant opportunity.
Yeah, and so with all of these people that are coming out, we can't employ everybody, and it was to the point that that Kerry picked up on from Syra as well, about having a hub and somewhere where we can support each other from. The next initiative that you got involved with was with an organisation called Bridge of Hope, wasn't it?
Yes, so as we've mentioned, we can't employ every single prisoner that we've trained or may leave, or the prisoner. The amount of times the prison employment leads picked up the phone to me and said, I've got a guy who's great for you, but unfortunately we ain't got the position. However, we've partnered with a company called the Bridge of Hope, where we can actually direct these people, all these guys coming back into society, and give them an opportunity and a platform to actually display their abilities. So
Bridge of Hope is a recruitment hub, isn't it? And they specialise in taking people, I think they called it, was it the periphery of society, people that are on the edge of society looking for employment?
So it's people who may have had, and again we go to the honest conversations, and actually James, when we spoke to him about Bridge of Hope, it's people who have maybe have had trouble with the law, maybe had been in prison at one point, or had issues with, I don't know, say certain habits that they've recovered from.
Right. So we managed to help people there as well in terms of getting employment. You're now looking at obviously the literacy side of things, trying to improve the lives of our existing workforce and helping them as well. But when we get some of the, I think somebody mentioned earlier on, how do you look at the people that you're bringing in and how do you vet them and make sure? That's a very important part of the process, obviously, to make sure. We had to have a sensible conversation about what was our level, wasn't it, in terms of what offences were we prepared to work with, and what we thought would be on the pale in terms of what was right for our business, because we are talking about just a medium-sized business. So for the smaller companies in the room, that's an important part of the discussion. They are going to be coming into your workforce, but they will just be a member of staff. We didn't tell anybody that we had brought an ex offender into the business. It was for them to have the conversation themselves if they wanted to. That was an important part of making sure that particular person integrated into the business as an employee, and they didn't wear a different colour suit. That's the...
Yeah, so, I mean, we did a bit of work before going into this process, and actually looking at our current workforce. We noticed that we may have ex-offenders, a certain amount of ex-offenders working for us already, but why don't we do it properly, train them properly? I mean, we're doing a big bit of work at the moment to get in-house training so that we can train effectively, train to our sector. Obviously, events like this are brilliant. We've spoken to the IHE about maybe doing some bespoke training that we push forward, and again, that's all going to go to help sort of bridge that skill gap, make that customer experience much better, because everyone's got a better understanding of actually what the business entails, and their training is specific to them. So that's a really positive movement that we're doing.
And then you're obviously then starting to, I could see Martin Pollen from the IHE there thinking, well, where does this take us then, Neil? I can feel it burning into me. So you're now starting to work on improving the skill set of the people that we've got in the business as well already, and having discussions with the IHE about...
Yeah, so specific to any sort of processes that we do, how we can make that safer and a more effective process. I mean, we have to get innovative with everything, right? I mean, we've got a video behind us with how we can make a workforce safer by keeping someone in a cab while we fill a pothole. It's about how to train that on that machine effectively, safely, and we may have to do a bespoke piece of training for that. We may have to do a bespoke piece of first aid training for highway sector. It's all about getting creative with that and how we can portray our message.
Okay, well, I think, ladies and gentlemen, we're running out of time. I'm being waved at from the side. It's a subject that Ash is clearly very passionate in. I think what this demonstrates as well is that you don't have to be a PLC to engage in this type of program. It is a one-size-fits-all environment. It can be fitted and tailored to anywhere. I'm sure Ash would be more than happy to answer any questions or to share any knowledge that you've got in the audience. I'd thoroughly encourage anyone to get involved in it. It's a very, very rewarding thing. UK PLC reoffending rates, £18 billion a year, I think. Yeah. So anything we can do to cut that is good for UK PLC as well. But for now, ladies and gentlemen, Ash Howard.
Thank you very much.